We're just a couple weeks away from Apple's first event of 2024, and today I want to show you everything that Apple's about to drop, from a completely redesigned version of the iPad Pro to an updated and larger iPad Air, plus some even faster MacBook Airs, and maybe even one more thing that we've heard rumors about for years, and it might actually be about to ship. But first, how do we actually know that Apple's holding a March event? Because at the time of recording this, Apple has not sent out press invitations. Well, this information comes courtesy of Bloomberg's Mark Gurman and a number of other credible industry sources who've been reporting for weeks at this point that a new product launch from Apple is imminent, specifically citing that new devices like iPads and MacBooks are already in active production overseas, and that almost always indicates a launch is happening really soon. Plus the fact that Apple usually holds an event in March, and this just lines up with that. And honestly, Apple might need to update production even further, especially for the redesigned iPad Pros that are on the way, because for the first time in almost 6 years, Apple is adding a breath of fresh air to this product. Apple's been working on some slightly larger 11.1 and 13-inch versions of the iPad Pro that for the first time ever have OLED displays, which will have unmatched clarity. We're hearing these panels described as some of the best in the industry and give you those just nuts black levels that you will only get with an OLED display. So that's half the story for these new screens. The other half is what you can't really see. The actual thickness of the display layer is getting significantly reduced. And while normally that would not even be something that I mention because you wouldn't ever notice it, well, this time it sounds like we're about to, because 9to5Mac got their hands on the exact dimensions of these new iPad Pros. And what they have shared is mind-blowing in a way that I still can't exactly wrap my head around. Because the current iPad Pro measures in at just about 6.4 millimeters. I mean, you can look at this thing, you can hold it in your hand. It not only doesn't weigh very much, it is incredibly thin already. But the new iPad Pro, it's getting 20% thinner as an entire product to measure in at just 5 millimeters. But what is that actually going to look and feel like? Well, it's going to be thinner than an iPod Touch and also the iPod Nano, according to Basic Apple Guy, who noticed this. It's legitimately mind-bending. Like I said, I still cannot wrap my head around this. But that's not even the end of the new design, because Apple's also working to add MagSafe connectivity on here in one of two key ways. According to 9to5Mac, Apple is exploring either ability to charge the iPad Pro through the Apple logo, or by adding an entirely new MagSafe port onto the iPad Pro, similar to something you might find on the MacBook Air or MacBook Pro. And on top of that, Apple's also upgrading the processor to be an M3 chip. So you might look at this and say bigger screens, new MagSafe port of some kind, as well as the Mac M3 chip. It's kind of sounding like the new iPad Pro is going to be more like a computer than ever. And man, is that the case, as Apple has also been working on yet another revamped part of this product, the Magic Keyboard. While the current Magic Keyboard has been pretty good and the keys feel great, it is like this plasticky rubber type thing that has, I mean, you could probably see it, a lot of stains, doesn't look the best, and it just makes it feel a little bit cheaper than a premium experience that you would get from a MacBook. So with the new iPad Pros, Apple is making the top part of this thing aluminum to feel almost one-to-one with how typing on a MacBook feels, and it will even have a larger trackpad on here as Apple is expanding that part significantly. If the writing wasn't on the wall already, for Apple really wants everybody to see the iPad Pro as a proper computer replacement, this is going to be Apple just screaming it louder than they ever have.
Even though I disagree with all this because I think the iPad is a very bad computer, and without updates to iPadOS software that add any kind of actual functionality, I'm going to lose my mind. But that is a story for another day.
Because there's one more major hardware upgrade coming on the iPad Pros, and that is with the Apple Pencil. Apple, for the first time again since 2018, is releasing a new version of this pencil that is likely going to have magnetic tips that can be exchanged, likely for different brushes or pen or pencil tips. It sounds like Apple wants to give artists more customization about their tool rather than this one size fits all. And I swear to you, if they do not add an eraser, if this Apple Pencil 3, if it doesn't have an eraser, I will delete my YouTube channel. Just kidding. I would never bet my YouTube channel on something that I know is never going to happen. But this new Apple Pencil 3 might also have Find My functionality on the inside. So if you lose your pencil, if it gets disconnected from your iPad, you might be able to find it on a map. Absolutely massive iPad Pro update. Now, let's take a break from iPads. There is more coming at this event, but I want to move over to the MacBook Air. We're on the topic of the M3 chip, on the topic of computers. Well, Apple is getting ready to release new versions of the both 13 and 15-inch MacBook Air at this event as well. But unlike the iPad Pro, this is going to be an extremely muted update with no major redesigns of any kind, as Apple just updated it first back in 2022, and then they released the 15-inch in 2023. And you might notice that that's a bit weird that Apple has released new versions and sizes of this MacBook Air not at the same time. It really sounds like the point of this update is just to throw the M3 chip in both of these at the same time, so they are synced up upgrade-wise from here on out, as it is sounding quite literally like it is just going to be a spec bump upgrade. Based on what we're hearing right now, though, these new MacBook Airs will still have the same number of ports and connectivity, which has never been enough for me, and that's why I partnered up with Ugreen, who sponsored this video, to show you their brand new RevoDock Pro 210. This is a new 10-in-1 USB-C docking station with a ton of connectivity, including 2 HDMI ports, a 5 gigabits per second USB-C port, a USB-A 3.0 port, 2 USB-A 2.0 ports, 100 watts of power delivery, an RJ45 Ethernet port, as well as an SD and micro SD card reader, plus the length of the built-in cable is a foot. And the fact that it has 2 HDMI ports is huge for a multi-monitor setup like what I'm rocking behind me right now. It supports dual displays at up to 4K at 60 Hz. And with macOS, you can set up these displays in 2 different ways. The first is showing the same content across every display, or you can show something different on your MacBook and the same image will be mirrored to both of your external monitors. Or if you happen to be looking for a dock that's just a little bit different, Ugreen has some other great options too, like the RevoDock Pro 313 13-in-1 laptop docking station, or the simpler RevoDock 1071 7-in-1 USB-C dock. And right now, you can check out all of Ugreen's RevoDock products by heading over to the link down below in the description. A huge thank you to Ugreen for sponsoring this one as always. I love them. Now, let's get back to it. Now, the MacBook Air is only one of 2 Air products that Apple is updating in March, the second of which is a new iPad. Now, these new iPad Airs are not going to be nearly as crazy looking as the updated iPad Pros, but they will have some subtle design changes, including a new camera module on the back that looks a bit more modern and kind of has an iPhone X style design vibe. This almost certainly means that we will be getting some kind of camera improvements, although I could not tell you why Apple even bothers updating the camera on iPads, especially the rear ones, who in 2024 is using their iPad to take photos or videos. Like, you're not real. And if you are real, don't come anywhere near me because I don't trust you. Regardless, Apple has much bigger plans for the rest of this iPad Air update, including a new 11-inch version, and for the first time ever on the iPad Air line, a bigger 12.9-inch model. So picture the 12.9-inch iPad Pro, but take out the 120 Hz ProMotion display and the fancy OLED. It's just going to be an LCD massive 12.9-inch panel, but it will be offered at under $1,000, which is huge, as it's been a really long time since Apple has let you buy the biggest iPad for under $1,000. And it's super exciting actually that it's coming back, because I think a lot of people, a lot of point of sale stations will benefit from this large model, where they don't need the fanciest screen, the fastest processor. They just want big, giant iPad that's going to last them a while, and that's exactly the niche that this is filling. Next, Apple will also likely be adding faster Wi-Fi 6E as well as Bluetooth 5.3 on these iPad Airs to round out a pretty solid update overall for the product. However, I don't think that's the end of the event. I don't think it's just iPad Pro, MacBook Air, and iPad Air. I think we are finally going to be seeing this product that I have been excited about for a while, that we've heard rumors about on and off, but has never materialized, well, until now. And that product, as I'm calling it, is the HomePod Max, Apple's largest and most expensive smart speaker yet, with even better sound, but a full-size display that you can interact with built in. Why do I think this is coming now instead of 2 years down the line or never? Well, it's because most recently, 9to5Mac noticed some fresh references to a HomePod with a big screen in the latest tvOS betas. And this signals a couple of different things. One, the fact that we've heard about this project for years and Apple is still actively working on it, with Mark Gurman first revealing the existence of this product many years ago at this point. And number two, the fact that it is in a current beta. This isn't old at this point. Apple is actively working on updating to make sure it works with this product. Why would they do that if it wasn't about to launch? Not to mention that Apple hasn't released a new HomePod in over a year, and the HomePod Mini hasn't been touched in almost 4 years. So the HomePod line is in some desperate need of attention, and this new Mac-sized speaker just seems like it would be perfect in a kitchen. Am I projecting a little bit because I want to put this in my kitchen? Am I a little too excited for that reason? Who's to say? This is my YouTube channel and I get to be excited about what I want. Joking aside though, I think it's realistic that this new HomePod Max comes out soon because it can't be that hard to put a screen on a HomePod. I mean, maybe it is, I don't know that much about engineering, but for the length of time we've been hearing about this and the most recent references, it just feels like it's imminent. And that, as of right now, is everything we know about Apple's March 2024 event. I am so excited. I will bring you updates as we hear more, as Apple sends out invites to the press. I've been Sam. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate y'all, and I will talk to you in my next video. See you later.